Assalamu alaikum, you guys. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm gonna try out this whole YouTube thing and see what comes about. So let's get started. Today I would like to talk with you all a little bit about my conversion to Islam. I understand that there are a plethora of conversion videos throughout the ether of the interwebs, and many of these are exceedingly beautiful and resonate with me on a variety of levels. However, despite that, I realize that my story is not out there, and perhaps my story can help another fellow convert in his or her journey to Islam, or perhaps it can just help another in strengthening his or her deen. So I thought I would share a little bit about my experiences, and we'll see what comes next. So I guess I should start with talking to you all a little bit about my background and where I come from. Again, my name is Elizabeth, and I am from Northeast Ohio. I was born and raised here. I came from an incredibly conservative Christian household, and though my family was not wealthy by any means necessary, my younger sister and I were both sent to private Christian school until I was about the age of 14. At this Christian school, we were taught literal teachings of the Bible, and these were interpretations that always caused me to question, even as a young child, and I was always discouraged of such questioning, and this was something that always created a conflict within myself. Despite this, my sister and I still continued to go to school, and I still continued to try and accept these principles. Though I'm not Mennonite, my family actually sent my sister and I to a Mennonite school when I turned 13. And at this Mennonite school, my questioning grew and it grew, and I was feeling an absence in my life and a very big disconnect between myself and religion. And this disconnect, manifested itself in the form of self-harm. I developed a very severe eating disorder, and I would practice self-mutilation. It was a very struggling time for myself, and after months and months of dealing with this, my family decided to send me to public school, thinking that perhaps this would help. So I was sent to public school, and actually with this, I ended up losing a lot of my connection with religion. So I continued throughout my high school years, not really having a connect with religion, kind of just existing, like many other high school students, feeling lost and very separated and particularly othered by society. And it was a difficult time for me, especially, graduating and not being sure of what I wanted to do and where I was planning on going. I ended up getting accepted into the University of Akron, and I decided to major in English. And it wasn't until my junior year of college that I started questioning religion again. During Ramadan of 2016, I was gifted a phone that had access to social media. During this time, I wasn't practicing Islam yet, but it was just about the time when Ramadan was beginning, and I was looking at all of these Facebook posts, and I had access to articles that were being posted on the internet and Snapchat and Instagram, and I noticed how people were preparing to fast, and this confused me. Even though I grew up Christian, this concept of fasting wasn't really prevalent within our teachings. We had the idea of Lent, but we never really practiced it as strictly, and it wasn't done so in the same way as Ramadan. And so I started questioning. At the time, I was working as a student assistant in the physics department, and a lot of the graduate students in the department were either from Iran or Saudi Arabia. And one of the graduate students was preparing her fast, and so I decided that maybe I would ask her a few questions about it. And so I did, and I started questioning more and more and more. And so I befriended this graduate student, and then when it was time to start fasting for Ramadan, she started encouraging me to fast, and I was like, of course, like everyone else, like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't possibly fast. It seemed so inconceivable to me. But I started to do it anyway, and with her help and with her support, I fasted almost the entirety of Ramadan. With this, she started teaching me how to pray, and she was never forceful or very strict about it. She was just very kind and patient and open-minded with regard to my questions. And so before I knew it, I was attending the masjid every single day for Ramadan. I remember one evening during Ramadan, I decided to pray by myself. And so as I was praying and I went into sujood, I distinctly heard the words, "Be and it is," and it was like lightning, this definite noise. just completely surrounded me, and it was like everything else around me didn't matter. It was just those words, be and it is. And after I was done praying, I was reading Quran, and I found that this is actually a verse that appears several times throughout the Quran. And I was completely shocked. I was like, oh my God. I've never had an experience like that ever before. Those words were so distinct, and they reverberated all around me, and they stayed with me, allowing for me to accept that present moment and to accept my awareness. It was a really beautiful moment. Over the course of a year, after Ramadan had passed, I learned more about Islam. I started praying 5 times a day, reading the Quran often. I started wearing hijab more often. And soon enough, I took my Shahada in May of 2017. And it certainly hasn't been an easy journey whatsoever, and I think that's something I would really like to emphasize within this video. A lot of people have told me is that your journey will become easier with time, and perhaps this is true of many people. However, this is not true to my case, at least not yet. And I understand that it hasn't been a lot of time that's passed, but it's still quite a struggle. So I took Shahada in May of 2017, and I felt so very ready to take Shahada, and the moment I took it, I felt so free, and I felt like I could accept myself as a person, and that now I was able to flourish and to become the Muslim that Allah wanted me to be. However, immediately after taking Shahada, I felt myself start to slip into deeper struggle than before. And what I mean by deeper struggle is I mean by deeper loneliness, deeper separation, and deeper otherness. I felt very, very othered, not only by, particular Muslims in the community that weren't as open to my converting, but people within the non-Muslim community as well. I received a lot of backlash from my conversion. Once I took Shahada, I felt this beautiful strike of lightning all around me, just like I had felt when I heard those words, be and it is. I felt like I could accept myself and to grow and to flourish and to do what I was meant to do. I felt like I had purpose. However, as some time passed, I felt very, very lonely, and I felt this suffocating darkness overwhelm me like it had once before. I felt myself very consumed by a severe lack of self-esteem and trust in myself. I felt like I couldn't trust myself, even though I could hear like Allah telling me to trust Him. It was like I was just so heartbroken by this separation and this loneliness that I was feeling. And soon enough, I began to fail in wearing hijab, reading Quran, even praying, and it was a very low time. And this was shortly after I'd taken Shahada, and it was so frustrating to me because so many people kept telling me, it's gonna get easier. It'll get easier. And I felt like some time had passed, and perhaps I was just impatient, but it was so incredibly anxiety-ridden, and I felt like I had not only failed myself, but I had failed my fellow Muslims and Allah. Through this, I began facing severe imposter syndrome, and I began to feel so shameful, particularly when I would wear hijab. I feel like my sins were something that everybody could see, and I felt that I didn't deserve to be Muslim. I felt like I didn't deserve to be a light for Islam, and the hijab is a light for Islam, so every time I would wear it, I felt like some sort of imposter, and I realized that imposter syndrome is sometimes common within new converts, but for me it felt so overly consuming. I wasn't sure how exactly to cope with it, and I often attributed my failings to, my otherness, the fact that I wasn't born Muslim, the fact that I was white, the fact that I couldn't relate to a lot of other conversion stories, though they were so very beautiful and a lot of them did resonate with me. I felt like I had a lack of belonging. And, it was quite like the epitome of my loneliness was swallowing me whole, and I couldn't handle it. But, I knew Allah was there. I just had to continue forward, and He really showed me how to continue forward. On World Hijab Day of this year, 2018, I had been volunteering with my university's MSA, and of course, at the time, I was not wearing hijab consistently. I wasn't praying consistently, reading Quran consistently. And so I walk into the student union, with my bag of hijabs, getting ready to help girls try them on, and just explain the usual questions like, why do you wear it? Like, oh, we wear it for Allah. Like, oh, what's it mean? Oh, it means modesty. And I felt so drained of life. I had these quick answers ready to pass out. I felt so empty. As I walked in and I saw the look on these girls' faces when they would, pick up the scarf and ask me to help them wear it, like the light on their faces, the admiration and the bravery that they had, it was like a slap to my face. It was like Allah was telling me to get my life together. Like through that, like the beauty in that moment was something that was, I don't even have words for it. I don't even have words for it. It was the fearlessness that they saw, the confidence when wearing hijab, that they had embraced the light of the headscarf, the light of Islam, and they were like a beacon to me. And I realized that I could be that beacon for others if, I could only learn to trust. And I realized that I needed to take this moment and embrace that trust. And so I really started taking that to heart, and I started wearing hijab despite what I was feeling, despite that lack of belonging, my separation, my imposter syndrome, my being othered. I started wearing it because I know that I can get through it. And even though it's difficult, you have to continue forward. Even if you feel like nothingness, even if you don't feel human anymore, you continue forward, and that's how you become stronger, and that's how Allah allows for you to flourish within this world. I think a lot of it is when you go through a difficult time, it's good to have a support system. Allah is always there for you. The Quran is always there for you. You can always pray, wear hijab, embrace Islam in so many different ways. I think it was just difficult for my story due to my lack of support system. And I know this is the case for many other converts, which is another reason why I wanted to make this video as well, to let you know that you're not alone, because if there's anybody out there that gets it, I get it, which is why I'm making this video. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is not only talk about some of the loneliness and separation and imposter syndrome, otherness, whatever you'd like to call it, that one may feel after taking Shahada and embracing Islam, is the lack of support that you may face after doing so, which is incredibly difficult. A lot of converts that have shared their stories have described their families' either indifference to them being Muslim, or their complete support, or perhaps they have husbands, or they live on their own. There's a lot of independence that I see within these converts, and unfortunately, my story isn't like that. Due to my financial dependence on my family, I have to live at home, and my family does not provide me the support in order to be openly Muslim. It's difficult to pray at home, to wear hijab at home, to bring the Quran out at home, even to talk about it freely, which is something that I think furthers that separation and that loneliness. And I think it's important to know that, there are convert stories that aren't so happy, that have a lot of struggle with it. But through that struggle, you have to remind yourself to keep going and to be stronger because of that. And I think that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to make this video, is to remind whoever you are out there that are watching this, that it's okay to struggle, and it's gonna suck. It's not going to feel good. But in the end, it will be better for you, because Allah has a plan for you, and this is how He wants you to be in order to be the best Muslim possible. Something else that I wanted to also point out is that it's okay to be othered. I know it doesn't feel very good, and I know that separation and loneliness that one may feel because of being othered is difficult, but Allah made us this way so that we may grow stronger. And I know this is a point I keep saying over and over and over again, but it's a wonderful reminder. And a particular verse that comes to mind when I think of being othered is in the Quran, Surah 49, verse 13. The Quran says, "O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes, that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you." So it's okay to be different. Allah made you different for a reason, and don't forget that. So to end my rant, I would just like to say, struggle is okay. It allows for you to see your humanness, and this is a special vulnerability, because through this vulnerability, we gather strength, we gather courage. And through this, you realize that you are more capable than you perceive, and to never forget that. And in the end, whatever the end is, you're not alone.